Effective immediately, the Department of Homeland Security has announced it will withdraw some personnel from Minnesota.
We will draw down 700 people effective today.
Operation Metro Surge saw roughly 3,000 DHS personnel deployed to Minneapolis in December. The conduct of some of those agents quickly sparked outrage among residents and led to the fatal shootings of 2 U.S. citizens. Border Czar Tom Homan was deployed to Minneapolis following the killing of Alex Preddy less than 2 weeks ago.
My goal with the support of President Trump is to achieve a complete drawdown, but that is largely contingent upon the end of the illegal and threatening activities against ICE.
Homan says the administration plans to roll out body-worn cameras nationwide, beginning with a focused deployment in Minneapolis. He added that an internal review revealed inconsistencies in how officers used body cameras.
Some officers and agents had them, some didn't. That inconsistency was unacceptable, so we moved immediately to prioritize full body cam deployment in the city.
Paying for body cameras is one of the key issues before Congress as they debate the use of body cams for DHS. On Tuesday, President Trump signed a spending package into law, ending the partial government shutdown, but pushing the can down the road for DHS's budget. Trump and Democrats now have 2 weeks to strike an agreement or face another shutdown for the department that includes agencies from TSA to FEMA. I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Honk my horn, blow my whistle, and get people to leave.
Nicole Cleland has actively protested against the deployment of federal agents and the immigration crackdown in the Twin Cities. She says she's a trained observer following officers of immigration and customs enforcement, as well as Customs and Border Protection.
There were a lot of other observers that were there that were blowing their whistles, and I continued to follow this one particular truck.
Were you driving dangerously? Were you getting in the way of what these agents were doing?
No, you can't. I mean, then you are breaking the law and you are giving them a right to say that you're interfering. So I was following at a safe distance.
Cleland says when she turned a corner, the truck and another car blocked the road and an agent approached her car.
I rolled down my window about an inch so I could hear him, and the first thing he said was, "Are you Nicole?"
What was your reaction when he said your name?
How do you know my name? How do you know who I am?
She says the Border Patrol agent gave her a warning that she was being recorded and told her to stop following.
Facial recognition and that his body cam was on.
One source briefed on Department of Homeland Security tactics confirmed to CBS News that Border Patrol uses facial recognition software, including an app called Mobile Fortify, to scan the faces of demonstrators. Cleland's experience is detailed in a lawsuit filed against DHS, including what she says happened 3 days later.
Checked my email just like I do every morning and saw an email that said the status of your global entry has been changed. And so I went and logged in to global entry, and it says right on the front, it says the date of 1/13/2026 revoked.
How long had you had global entry?
Since 2014.
So you would no longer be able to go through that shorter line while you're traveling?
Yep. And in all honesty, I don't care about that. It isn't about losing that privilege. It is about how I lost the privilege. Just says, we regret to inform you that your membership in global entry has been...
Cleland says she wasn't given a reason for her change in status and says it should have been active for 3 more years. In a sworn statement, she says, quote, "I am concerned that the revocation was the result of me following and observing the agents. This is intimidation and retaliation." CBP tells Cleland it can revoke this clearance without providing a reason. In a statement, a spokesperson for Customs and Border Protection said there has been no new directive from CBP on global entry revocations. Body-worn cameras are utilized to document encounters and are not equipped with CBP's facial comparison technology.
Showing that. I don't want this.
Okay. It's been 3 days since these 2 boys have seen their parents. Their mom and dad, Reynaldo Chirino and Cris Estefani, dropped them off at school in Chula Vista Tuesday morning, but never showed up to pick them up. Shortly after school drop-off, ICE stopped and arrested them.
And there was a voicemail, and I could hear the ICE agent in the background saying that she had opportunity to call and figure out who's going to pick up the kids. ¿Qué vas a querer para tu cumpleaños?
Itzel Jimenez got the call that the pair had been detained. She's a family friend who, with the help of a temporary caregiver authorization affidavit, has stepped in to care for the boys ages 12 and 4. They have no other family nearby.
It was either they were going to go to CPS because no one was going to pick them up, or they're going to come with somebody that they knew. So I decided to just take them.
The couple from Venezuela and Colombia are now detained at the Otay Mesa Detention Center. Reynaldo called me from inside the facility. He says they're a hard-working family with no criminal record here or back home, who came to the country legally in 2022 under temporary protected status for Venezuelans. He says he had a valid work permit and worked with his wife cleaning offices. That legal protection has since been revoked for all Venezuelans by the Trump administration, which means he fell out of legal status. ICE didn't respond to my questions about the couple's case.
Wow,
Itzel, who has 2 kids of her own, is now raising money, trying to find an attorney to take on the case while she cares for the children. Thursday, she had to surrender the boy's family dog to a shelter, unable to find someone to help care for her.
For the kids, enough is enough for them, and I need to give them stability while I can.
And this is not about ICE doing normal ICE stuff. The objection is to ICE pulling people off the street indiscriminately. It's these roving bands that were walking through Minneapolis and targeting both Latino and Somali people without regard for whether any crime had been committed at all. The frustration, of course, comes in the way and the how people in our city have been treated. I think you've got tens of thousands of people in Minneapolis that are standing up and speaking out and delivering food to those that would be terrified to go outside and stand and watch it at daycare. And they're doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because they care about their neighbors. And that is a beautiful Minneapolis sentiment.
Developing this morning, the Department of Homeland Security rolling out a new program to issue body cameras to federal law enforcement agents across the country. First agents to receive those cameras are in Minneapolis.
It wasn't my decision. I would have, I leave it to her. They generally tend to be good for law enforcement because people can't lie about what's happening. So it's generally speaking, I think 80% good for law enforcement. But if she wants to do that, I'm okay with it. So we're doing a good job. If she wants to do the camera thing, that's okay with me.
Democratic leaders in sanctuary jurisdictions also coming under pressure to cooperate with federal law enforcement as the administration shifts its strategy on the ground. Some lawmakers say those leaders could face jail time if they do not allow local police to cooperate.
Bad Bunny, debí tirar más fotos.
An overwhelmed Bad Bunny warmed up for the Super Bowl by accepting 3 Grammys, including Album of the Year.
I'm gonna say, eyes out. We don't hate them. We love our people, we love our family, and that's the way to do it, with love.
Immigration was also on the minds of Song of the Year winners Billie Eilish and Phineas.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
And Best New Artist winner Olivia Dean.
I guess I want to say I'm up here as a granddaughter of an immigrant. I'm a product of bravery, and I think those people deserve to be celebrated.
Jelly Roll celebrated Jesus after winning a trio of trophies.
Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party. Jesus is not owned by no music label. Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him.
President of Ukraine next.
Ex-CNN host Don Lemon facing legal consequences after he was arrested and charged in connection to the anti-ICE demonstration inside a Minnesota church. Joining us now to break down the charges and the case is former prosecutor and attorney Jeremy Eldridge, partner at Zealous Advocates. Good morning to you, sir. How did the DOJ finally get charges against Don Lemon and these other defendants, since initially we saw a federal magistrate judge refuse to file charges, even an appellate judge at one point also refused? How did those charges finally come about?
Well, first off, what you have to acknowledge here is that it's very uncommon
for charges to be brought to a magistrate, which is a version of a federal judge, and for that federal judge to not sign the initial warrant. And the point of that is that the judge didn't find that there was probable cause to believe that Don Lemon committed a crime. And so what the United States Attorney's Office did is they bypassed that magistrate. They went to a grand jury, which are citizens from across the state that hear cases on a regular basis and make the same determination. They believe there was probable cause, and now we have charges.
They got that done pretty quickly, wouldn't you say? I mean, we're talking in a matter of days.
Which, once again, is not unheard of, but it's incredibly uncommon. Obviously, they had an idea the magistrate might deny those charges, and they were trying to go through the regular process first.
He has been charged with conspiracy to deprive rights and a violation of the FACE Act. Now, these are not minor charges. Walk us through what these charges actually mean and also what the punishment could be for these charges if he's found guilty.
Of course. Both of these charges carry a maximum penalty of 10 years. Now, for the FACE charge, which was originally meant to conduct reproductive clinics, but also delves into protections for First Amendment like religious activities, first-time offenders usually going to get 6 months and a fine. For the other charge, which is the classic charge for somebody that is violating constitutional rights, that charge carries 10 years. However, in that case, you have to have 2 or more individuals because it's a conspiracy and they intend to injure, or to disrupt activity. So different elements, but very similar facts.
Lemon says he was covering the protest as an independent journalist. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said he was actively involved with organizing it. Let's listen to what Blanche had to say.
Nobody in this country should feel comfortable storming into a church while it's ongoing and disrupting that church service and thinking that we're just going to stand by and let that happen, because there is a statute that does not allow that to happen. It doesn't matter if you happen to be a former CNN journalist. It doesn't matter if you're a rioter. It doesn't matter if you think you're peacefully protesting. You are not allowed to do that.
Where is the legal line between journalism and participation or organization or knowledge? Does calling yourself also a journalist automatically shield you from criminal liability?
Well, we want journalists to have this shield. That's the constitutional right that exists. Where we draw the line is when you're organizing, when you're part of that mission, not necessarily there to cover it, which means gathering information so that it can be later disseminated to the public. I think it's a little more difficult in this day and age to define what a journalist is, which is why the court is going to have a very difficult time deciding whether these protection extends to freelance journalists, bloggers, right, internet sleuths. Where are we going to draw that line?
I mean, everybody can be a journalist these days, right? We have them all the time on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. In fact, sometimes that's some of the best stuff you see is from people who are out and about, who happen to be at the scene, at the place, covering this. So where is that? Could anybody be a journalist?
Anybody can be a journalist, but their activities are going to be determinative of whether they're acting in that capacity. So, for instance, if I'm covering a bank robbery and I'm just there covering the bank robbery, I'm a journalist. But at the moment I become a getaway driver, obviously I have some culpability here. So if Don Lemon is actively engaging in what doors to enter through, what doors to exit through, how to handle the protest inside of the building, he's going to have a problem in a courtroom.
Very quickly, what if you know about the bank robbery and you say, let me go film it. I'm going to go film it when you're there. Let me know when you go. Does that cross the line?
That's exactly what people are saying. Are you an accessory before the fact? Do you have some level of accomplice liability here because you engaged in a planning activity as opposed to just being embedded? That's going to be the seminal question for this court.
Exactly. You just happened to be there when it was happening. All right. Former prosecutor and attorney Jeremy Eldridge, partner at Zealous Advocates. Great to have you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. New information also out this morning about the case against former CNN host Don Lemon after he was arrested on Friday and charged. Lemon has been charged with violating the FACE Act as well as a conspiracy charge after an anti-ICE demonstration that disrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota. Lemon claims he was covering the protest as a journalist. However, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said Lemon was actively involved with organizing it.
Nobody in this country should feel comfortable storming into a church while it's ongoing and disrupting that church service and thinking that we're just going to stand by and let that happen, because there is a statute that does not allow that to happen. It doesn't matter if you happen to be a former CNN journalist. It doesn't matter if you're a rioter. It doesn't matter if you think you're peacefully protesting. You are not allowed to do that.
Lemon was arraigned on Friday and is due back in court a week from today. In the next hour of the National News Desk, we're going to talk to a former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. Mark? Developing this morning, the president's crime crackdown working in the nation's capital, with the murder rate falling to its lowest level in decades. Washington, D.C. reported just 1 homicide in January, down from 10 during the same month last year. The drop has followed President Trump's law and order push, including the deployment of the National Guard, as we know, on the streets of D.C. last summer.
We have had virtually no crime in D.C. D.C. is now considered a very safe place, and it should be. It's our nation's capital. And we sent in the soldiers, and I get thanked every single day by people that work in the White House. People, young ladies, men, they come up, thank you, sir, for making D.C. so safe. They walk to work now. A year and a half ago, they wouldn't have walked to work. They would have been killed or mugged, or something would have happened to them.
To his point, police say there have been just 2 homicides in D.C. so far this year. So if you take 2023 and make a comparison as far as where they were during this time in 2023, during the Biden administration, D.C. reported 274 homicides for the entire year, which was a 20-year high for the city. More suspects now face charges after a crowd of anti-ICE demonstrators stormed a Sunday service at a church in St. Paul. Ian Austin and Jerome Richardson face federal charges, including violating the FACE Act, which prohibits interference of religious worship at places of worship. Total of 9 people so far have been charged over that January 18th disruption at the church. Attorney General Pam Bondi posted, "If you riot in a place of worship, we will find you." Former CNN host Don Lemon also facing legal consequences after he was arrested and charged in connection with that demonstration as well. This morning, the Trump administration taking steps to increase transparency in the federal immigration operations underway in Minneapolis. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said agents will immediately start wearing body cameras. This does come after weeks of violent anti-ICE demonstrations and protests that have interrupted operations there.
It wasn't my decision. I would have, I leave it to her. They generally tend to be good for law enforcement because people can't lie about what's happening. So it's, generally speaking, I think 80% good for law enforcement. But if she wants to do that, I'm okay with it. So we're doing a good job. If she wants to do the camera thing, that's okay with me.
Minneapolis will be the first city to receive the body cams, and the program will expand nationwide as funding becomes available. And we're seeing a growing push across the state to track down and stop ongoing fraud in Minnesota. State employees will investigate and visit more than 5,800 alleged Medicaid providers to see if they're actually operating and to see if they're actually legitimate. 13 programs have been flagged as high risk for waste, fraud, and abuse after billions of taxpayer dollars have already been stolen.
Minnesota, if they allowed us to do the job, it's a mess. There's something in the water up there, and I love the state. I won the state 3 times, but I got no credit for it. I won that state 3 times, but it's a rigged state, really rigged badly with the Somalians and the theft. And I guess you studied it, but I hear it's over $19 billion, okay? Can you imagine? They have a country where they have no money, they have no nothing, and they come over here and they steal. They're able to steal more than $19 billion.
The federal government has already said it's withholding up to $2 billion in Medicaid funding if Minnesota fails to clean up the programs.